Manipur crisis. Okay, let's talk about Manipur. That's one question by Dav P. Mangang. Geopolitical Dubey also says, what's the current situation in Manipur? How long will native Hindus survive there if the government does not do anything? Right now, I mean, I've the way the government has handled the issue thus far is extremely disappointing. And I think this is something that could essentially end the political career of Mr. Modi. Thus far, his handling of Manipur has been abysmal. To be very fair to Mr. Modi, he did not. It isn't this crisis was not started by him. It's not his fault that this situation happened. The cookie infiltration into Manipur and all that. These pieces on the chessboard have been put in place for a very long time. It started in the 19th century, and it continued after the 1947 independence of India. Successive governments of India brought in more and more cookie infiltrators into India and gave them citizenship. You will see cookies in very high positions in the bureaucracy and all that. Very, very bad situation. So Mr. Modi did not create the problem, but he did not see this coming. He was caught completely unawares, and for 1+ year, he has not had any idea of what to do with the situation. Now you can see they are taking out Assam rifles from Manipur. Yeah, after more than 1 year, I think they seem to be waking up to what the real root cause of all the problems is. I'm not saying the Assam rifles itself is the root cause, but taking the Assam rifles out of Manipur is a step in the right direction. I'll just leave it at that. So the current situation is very bad. Imagine the capital city of a state of India is being bombed by drones. Whatever state you're living in, imagine a situation like that happening. Drones operated by foreign infiltrators are bombing your capital city, dropping bombs on your capital city. That is a state of war, right? That's something that Manipur is seeing. And what on earth is the government doing about it? To be very fair, the situation, Manipur, before the BJP government came to power in Manipur, whichever year it was, in the 2010s, when Mr. Biren Singh became chief minister. Before that, I think the people of Manipur have already forgotten how bad things were before that. Encounters every day, curfew the moment the light starts getting dim in the evening, and curfew until morning, bombs, bomb blasts every day, uh, insurgents shooting people and stuff. The situation in Manipur was abysmal. There was no nightlife. People did not go out of their homes after dark. There was AFSPA everywhere. AFSPA was imposed in Manipur in 1958. It is still on in some places in Manipur. I think they're imposing it in more parts of Manipur. AFSPA is a failure in Manipur. AFSPA is something you use for a short, sharp period of time, and then you solve the problem. Since 1958, AFSPA is in force in Manipur. Clearly, AFSPA has failed. But AFSPA is designed to allow the security forces to succeed. Then what's going on? Who was in power all these years in Manipur, and how did things get so bad? So, so I would not lay. I would rather be very fair and say that the BJP government did not create the problem. They actually tried to solve the problem. Things were very good for 5 years, 5, 6 years after Mr. Biren Singh came to power. I would not say all the problems were solved, but things were so much better. The economy in Manipur was taking off. Um, People were able to go out at night for the first time in decades, and so on. And then this happens. May 3, right? 2023. And the government is caught completely unawares and off guard. How did this happen? The cookies were supposed to be good, right? So, the native Hindus in Manipur are under attack. They are under siege. They are allowed to stay in only about 6% of the territory of the state of Manipur. It's a disastrous, horrible situation. And the things you do for electoral gains, well, it comes back to bite you in the wherever it bites you back, doesn't it? Uh, Now, the solution to the problem is outside of India. It's outside of Indian territory. And this is not some law and order issue. Please understand. This is a geopolitical issue. Because the puppet master who is behind all of this is the biggest power on the planet. They want to create an artificial Christian nation out of parts of Manipur, out of Mizoram, out of parts of Bangladesh, and out of large parts of Burma. Cookie land for Christ. And the US is behind this. Even China is on the back foot here. So the civil war that's happening in Burma, that's essentially a proxy war between the US and China. The establishment, the government that's been in power for so many decades, it has historically been pro-China. The Burmese junta government. And the civil war is by all these various ragtag tribal outfits that have somehow unlimited access to arms and ammunition, and who are fighting the Burmese government, who suddenly are all coordinated and they have great leadership and tactics and strategies. How does a ragtag bunch of half-naked tribals suddenly acquire all of these arms, ammunition, all these strategies, tactics out of the best playbooks? Something is in play. And this is designed to affect China as well as India. Could you believe it? Not China to that much of an extent, because there's no terrorism happening on Chinese territory. But India, well, we are under siege. So the situation is very bad. The solution to the problem lies outside of India, lies in Burmese territory. And will the Modi government have the fortitude, let's say, to solve the problem? The solution is a military solution outside of Indian territory. Of course, it's gonna cause problems, because a superpower will then make all kinds of allegations against India, human rights, blah blah blah. So I think the only solution is if you treat this as a pilot project with another aligned nation, another aligned power. We have to figure out whether the power can be aligned with us. um, yeah, but so this situation has exposed the incredible power asymmetry and disparity between the US and India. This and what happened in Bangladesh. It's nothing personal that the Americans have against India, nothing personal at all. They're just ensuring that the power equilibrium, power balance is in their favor. Absolutely nothing personal against India. There is no hatred of India or anything. It's just that if you will not ally with us, then we will make sure that we put the right pieces on the chessboard in the subcontinent. And there's nothing you can do about it. They're demonstrating it to India. So what does India do about this? Because our sovereignty is at stake over here. This kind of demonstrates to you, my friends, that India is not a fully sovereign nation. I will be getting comments right now about the Chavda index, right? The geopolitical uh, rankings of nations, the hard power rankings. I have not released it thus far because I'm going to have to amend it. One of the major factors that I take into consideration in the calculations is sovereignty. And thus far, I had treated India as a fully sovereign nation with a sovereignty index of 1. I probably will have to downgrade India's sovereignty ranking, not a fully sovereign nation. Because if you have one of your states that is under siege by foreigners and you're not able to do anything for more than 1 year, then you're not a sovereign nation. So I think I'll have to revise my view of India's sovereignty. India is not a fully sovereign nation. And I think there are many more examples of that. I mean, there's rampant industrial scale conversions happening in this country, and the government is doing nothing about it. There is large scale, industrial scale illegal immigration infiltration happening into India. Bangladeshis, Rohingyas, cookies. The government is doing nothing about it. Maybe it's unable or unwilling to do it. I don't know. And there are so many of our institutions, national institutions, that are compromised and infiltrated by foreign agents, allegedly. And has the government done a thing about it in the past decade? Not so much. So I would say I will have to be realistic and I'll have to downgrade India's sovereignty ranking, which would push India further down the top 10 if we remain in the top 10 in the global hard power rankings. But I've got to be realistic. If I put out an index that is all fantasy and la la land, then what's the point of doing that? So I'm going to have to amend that. And Manipur is the shining example of how India is not fully sovereign. The government of India is not able to take care of the interests of its own citizens.